Welcome to the Mental Health Minute Young Adult Edition. I'm Chris Salyards, Executive Director for the Bridge Youth and Family Services. In this podcast, we'll connect with local students to hear their personal stories, experiences, and insights on mental health. By amplifying the voices of young people, we aim to highlight the unique challenges and pressures they face while emphasizing the importance of mental well-being. We're excited to have these conversations with you. Welcome back to the Mental Health Minute Podcast Teen Edition. I'm Chris Salyards, Executive Director for the Bridge Youth and Family Services. Today I am joined by Jasnain and Saanvi. Both are FREMD students, and I've asked them to join me today to talk about stress, social pressures, college and school, and all things teen stress related. So I just wanted to kick it off and say thank you for coming to talk about this. This is an opportunity for us to invite all of your peers or anybody listening into a conversation, because what I've learned is if it affects a couple of people, it probably affects a lot of people. So wanted to welcome you in. So let's kick it off with a question about sort of teen stress. What does it look like? Where does it come from?
I feel like for me, like a lot of it comes from just balancing like everything that I have to do. Like obviously because school is a big part of my life. You know, I like see a lot of my friends there, like a lot of my social life is there, like everything revolves around it. So like balancing that with like my life outside of school, like on my activities that I want to do, on my other responsibilities, and just kind of like having that like work-life balance kind of, but like it's like school. And then kind of like also like preparing for the future. Like it's a lot to think about, especially for someone like of my age, I feel like. So kind of just like being mindful of like where I'm like putting my time and like, you know, like what's important to me right now and like focusing on that for my future.
So you're juggling a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. What about you? Do you agree?
Yeah, I fully agree. I feel like because we spend the majority of our time in school, like more than 8 hours, and like after you come back, you're studying, like everything just revolves around school. So the fact that like you have to spend so much time in this one thing is like, that is what builds most of my stress. And I feel like most of the people that go to our school and take like school really seriously, that is also a big part of their stress also.
Okay. Yeah. So based on what you're telling me, you have a pretty high performing school, right?
Yes.
So very competitive school. I think your sports are competitive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Everything's competitive.
And how do you think, are either of you in sports?
Yeah, I do badminton.
Okay.
And our badminton team is really competitive.
Really
We're like,
good.
we won state for like a lot of years in a row. I think like 3 or 4 years in a row. And like, just like being on the team is like really stressful. Like even trying out is like one of the most stressful things that like I've gone through. Yeah.
I did badminton last year also, but it was a lot. It was hard to balance. So it's like, I needed to take time away from it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to do it this year because I need to like prioritize my time into doing things more school related, like not activity related.
Oof. So you have sports clubs?
Clubs, I do Model UN, which is basically like kind of like debate, but then you're kind of a country or a person. And then I also do Business Professionals of America because I'm like leaning in towards that for my future. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I do speech and Red Cross. So it's a lot of like community work and like outreach work.
Oh my goodness. So school, sports, clubs, AP classes?
Yeah, like 3 or 4.
Okay. And then college is on the horizon. So now we're starting to think about college. Goodness me. So how do you balance all of that? Because that feels like a lot with the things you want to do. Does that also create stress when you like have this bucket of stress over here, which are like all the things you have to do, and then the things you want to do? Does that create stress because you're like, or feel guilty?
Mm-hmm. I feel like guilt is a big part because for me personally, and I think this goes for a lot of people too, like you need to focus your time on things that you feel are important. And while hanging out with friends and having a good social life is important to me, I also need to prioritize a couple of other things that come before it. For example, like if I need to study for my physics test, I'd probably spend the time doing that rather than with my friends, even though I want to spend time with my friends. I probably can't afford to be doing that at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah. And like kind of going off of that, like with like extracurriculars, like obviously those are important for college, but like not taking on like just every single extracurricular like you possibly could just because like you think it'll look good on your college apps. Like that's just like taking on a bunch of like extra stuff that you like don't need, but like really like taking like extracurriculars like that you actually enjoy. Like first, like that'll add on to like kind of like alleviating like your stress because you're actually doing something you enjoy and it'll help you towards your future. So kind of just like being mindful of like what you're doing and like why you're doing it, and like being really good at one thing you actually enjoy is much more worth it than like being like kind of good at like a bunch of things that like aren't even like helpful for you.
Okay. So what I hear you saying in all of that is to take a beat and maybe be a little mindful about, because you're getting all of this stuff thrown at you, right? And when did you decide to join all these clubs?
For me, it was literally my freshman year because, see, I think it's a lot of people with who have older siblings. Like my sister, she's 2 years older than me, so my parents and like I have a little bit more exposure because of her. So like I knew from freshman year if I like wanted to go into business, I should do BPA because she told me about these things, like these clubs that I should join. And then I also like public speaking, so I decided to do Model UN, and like she told me that it's less stressful than debate, so I decided to join that instead. So it's like helps me, the fact that I have an older sister who can kind of guide me through.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, me too. I had a similar experience. Like I had a brother who graduated college this like past year, and he also like told me like, like this is all the things you need to do to prepare to get into college. But also like I feel like school, like we had like VAMP, which is like a class like for freshmen to like get all your information that you need, any like helpful tips and stuff. And you talk to like student leaders for that. And I feel like they also like when I was there freshman year, like they also kind of like drilled into me the idea that like you should be joining clubs, like you should be doing like sports, like any activities right now, because like they will help you for your future. And like there's so many like clubs and stuff that are like geared towards like future careers. Like there's like HOSA and like Red Crosses for like medicine, and there's like BPA for like business. So there's a lot of things that'll like help you for your career in the future. And like it like they tell you that it's helpful like to start in freshman year. So kind of like it's like kind of like that, yeah.
So if you didn't, so your sister, we'll just pretend she's here, right? What would she say to that question? Because you had somebody pave the way, right? But what would she say? Would it have been overwhelming?
I feel like it was a more of a learning process for her than it was for me. Like I don't think she did any club freshman year, especially because for her, I think it was online. Through her sophomore year, like this, again, it was like school induced. So the pressure to get into all these clubs and activities, she also knew she wanted to go into business. So she was looking for things that would guide her to that. And so like just reaching out, like we have great counselors at our school. So she talked to her counselor a lot. And then he gave her ideas of like what to do. And like they formed a relationship that was really strong. And so I feel like that's also kind of beneficial. That's probably what helped her.
Okay. What about you? Do you think if you didn't have somebody pave the way, it would be super overwhelming?
I think so. I know like my brother, like he said like freshman year, it was definitely more like school focused and just kind of focused on like getting acclimated to like the new environment. So like he didn't really join any of the other clubs like either, but I know like sophomore year, he was telling me like that's when kind of like all the extracurriculars and like he played water polo and everything like kind of started. So I think like it's definitely like varies from person to person, but like a lot of people like freshman years was kind of like just like more school. And then after that, which I feel like it's like fine either way, as long as you kind of like have a goal set in mind.
Okay. And how do you feel about all the decisions you've made? Do you feel like you made all the right decisions? Do you feel like if you could do it over again, you'd make different decisions?
I don't know about different decisions because I feel like, again, like it helped me grow as a person because I remember freshman year I joined, or by sophomore year, actually, I had 7 clubs that I was in, and it was a lot. Like every single day I would have to stay after school, and there was really no day that I could go home and just relax. So I think junior year was when I cut down on some of these clubs and decided that I didn't want to do them. So I wouldn't really go back and change it because I feel like I would be in the same position that I was sophomore year if I didn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of had like a similar experience to you, but I feel like there's like other things maybe that like I didn't know of like freshman and sophomore year that maybe I'd want to go back and join like earlier on just so I'd have like a better experience with them. But I feel like there's always like, you're always going to have that feeling of like, oh, maybe I should have done this. But like, I feel like where I'm at, like, I'm like good enough for like what I want to do in the future.
Okay. So what I'm getting at is, do you feel like there's anything different that you would have wanted to sort of help offset some of the stress you had kind of finding your way? I know you both had people showing you the way. So it was, you weren't going in blind. But I guess, do you think that's what offset your stress? Or do you feel like, as you said, stress is a natural part of what had to happen for you to grow? So just tell me about that part of the conversation.
Again, I feel like it's inevitable, like it's gonna happen. So just kind of like just trying everything also, because I understand that you might think you're doing everything and like it's a lot, but you need to be open-minded and try everything just because you never really know what's right for you. And even now, like even though I'm like in a good place in all these clubs and like it's important at our school to become like part of the executive board of these clubs, but like even then, like it's just important for you to like not do everything, but again, like just try everything because you never know what's the best fit for you is. And like freshman year, I think I joined investing club, and what offset me from that was the fact that there were only guys in the club. So I didn't continue the club because it's like if I'm the only girl there, it doesn't feel as inclusive. And so that could have been the right club for me. I just wasn't open-minded. So I kind of geared away from that. And I still haven't joined to this day, but.
Or felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Put in the middle of a situation, right? So how would you, if you could give our listeners one piece of advice about moving forward, especially because you've navigated your stress from all of these decisions you had to make from a very early high school experience, what's one piece of advice you would give our listeners about all of this stuff?
I would say to manage your stress by taking breaks. And I know it's different for everyone and stress looks different for everyone. But for me personally, like taking breaks was a huge part of helping me grow and like alleviate some of my stress because like freshman year, I used to study like a lot, like 7 hours a day, and it was not good for my mental health. And now I realize that taking breaks allows me to become more relaxed and helps me like do better in school. And like, I feel like I've just grown as a person just because of like learning through these things. And like, it just it puts me in a better place for next year too.
Sure.
Yeah. And like going off like taking breaks and stuff, like for me, like it's important to like keep like the mindset of like you're just taking one thing like a step at a time. Like, you know, like every day is like a new day and like just take like one thing like at a time. And like for studying, like taking breaks thing, like I use like the thing called like the Pomodoro technique. And like what it is, it's like I have like an app that does this for me, but like it's called Flow, but you can do it like yourself too. Like it's like studying for like 25 minutes. So you set a timer for yourself and like you lock in and you study and like you get whatever work you need to get done. And then you take a 5-minute break. And like in that 5 minutes, like you do like you step away from all your work, you know, like you go outside, you like take a walk or you scroll through your phone, you do something that like is like makes you happy and like alleviates all your stress for that 5 minutes. And then you get back to your work for 25 minutes again. And then you take a 5-minute break after that. And you do that like 4 times. And after the cycle of 4 times, you take one like longer break for like 10 or 15 minutes. So that way you're kind of like, you're locking in and you're in that like mode of like, okay, I need to study, but you're not like overwhelming yourself with all the information because you're taking a break and kind of like giving yourself that time to like relax and kind of really soak in everything that you've learned. So I feel like that's really helpful for me to like manage my time and like kind of, you know, like not get overwhelmed by the work.
Okay. And have you ever had a time in your life or have you known somebody whose stress actually becomes a much bigger problem and they sort of tip the scale? So now they're experiencing maybe some anxiety or depression. So what about that? Have you seen that?
I don't think I've encountered that personally, but I could definitely see that happening because like if you don't seek help and your stress is at a level where it's not good for you and you're not supposed to be in that state, then it's really important for you to seek help. And if someone doesn't do that, which I know because it's so normalized for you to not seek help because it's like, again, everyone goes through it, that people don't seek help. Like if you don't reach out, then it could be really harmful to you. And I definitely see people having anxiety or depression due to that.
Yeah, I do like there is someone that comes to mind, but like thankfully like they have a good like support system and like I don't know like what the main cause of their like stress was and like what like really like tipped that scale like you said, but like they were able to like reach out for themselves and like get help. And I think that's like really important that like people don't know like what like their threshold is for stress. Mm-hmm. So I feel like kind of being like mindful of that, like even if you're like a little bit like overwhelmed, like it's okay to like go to your counselor, like go to a therapist, like that's what they're there for. And like thankfully like, you know, like there are so many resources out there that like kind of like can help you like get back to like what's like should be like a normal level of like stress kind of.
Okay. And I'm glad you brought up counselors because, of course, that's what the Bridge is. We're therapists, right? But I was under the impression that the conversation around having a therapist or going to therapy was actually becoming more common than it used to be. But would you say that it is more widely accepted among your age group, or would you say that it's still one of those things that's almost taboo? We don't talk about that.
I feel like it is more accepted now than before, but also you don't see people openly talking about, oh, I go to therapy. And it's like more of, you would tell your closest friends that you go to therapy because you don't want everyone to know.
Sure.
Because in a sense, like, it's kind of showing a like weakness, even though it isn't, because it's like you found the strength to reach out to people.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like it really depends on like your environment and the people you're around. Because like, you know, like if you were to say like, I'm going to see my therapist or I'm going to see my counselor because I'm stressed, like some people might be like, oh, like they make jokes about it, or they'll be like, oh, like why, like you're such a crybaby, like why do you need to go do that? But like it really depends on like the group that you're in and like the environment. Like I know in like a lot of like the higher like AP level classes or stuff, like stress is kind of like more normalized. So it like people might see it as kind of like, it's like weird, like, oh, like why are you stressed out about it? This class is supposed to be hard or something. But like it really just like, I feel like it depends on like who you surround yourself with.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, you know, and everybody has a very different threshold for stress.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know when you're stressed? Like, how do you know when you've reached that point?
It's like the feeling of like being like overwhelmed and kind of just like freezing and like not really knowing like what the next step is to take. And like for me, it's like if I have a lot of work to do, like I have a calendar and I write down everything. And if I'm just like looking at it and I just see like all of the stuff written down, I kind of just like freeze up. And like to kind of like cope with that, I kind of do just take one thing at a time. Like, okay, I'll do this subject first, then this thing next. But it's really just like the feeling of like not like knowing like how you're supposed to like handle like what like your situation. You kind of just like run away from your problems kind of. That's what I do. But obviously that's like not a good thing to do. And like kind of just taking one thing at a time is a healthy way to manage that.
Well, it's normal. There's 3 responses, right?
Yeah.
Flight, fight, or freeze.
Mm-hmm.
So you're normal. Maybe it's not helpful, but it's normal.
Yeah.
What about you? How do you know when you've reached your tipping point?
I think when I'm just super fatigued, like if I'm spending too much time studying and like I'm spending late nights studying, and like you'll just know when you reach that point because your body will just tell you like you can't take it anymore. And so you just need to like kind of find something else to do, whether it be to go walk outside or just talk to your parents. Because I feel like that's a big thing for me. Like my parents help me with my stress a lot just because like they've gone through it with my sister again. So like they know what it's like, whether it be the college process or just high school in general. The feelings of stress if you're in hard classes, like it's bound to happen. However, it can be overwhelming. So it's like, for me, my best resource is just my parents because I can freely talk to them.
That's great. And do you ever find that sometimes they want to talk to you too much when you're not ready?
Yes, because I do at times shut them out. Like if I'm going to my room and I just can't, like, again, talking about like the social battery stuff that we talked about earlier. Sometimes you just don't have the energy and you're not ready to talk, but then they're ready. So they want to talk. And like, it's sometimes like they've been meaning to talk for a long time, but they haven't yet. And then when they're ready, you're not ready. So it's like, it's really just finding that balance again.
And how do you communicate that with them? Are you able to say soon, not now?
Yeah. I fully tell them like, not right now. I can't.
In that tone of voice with a smile?
Yeah. I mean, at times, like, yeah, if I'm just overwhelmed, I literally just go to my room, close my door, and either sleep or just like relax.
Sure.
And I feel like they can understand it because it's just a pattern for me at this point. So it's like, they'll know. Like, just because I've been doing that for so long, they can figure it out.
Yeah. I do want to invent like a mood ring for my daughters so that I could just see if they're in the mood to talk. It like lights up like in my favorite color. But if not, it'll just be like red. Like, don't come near me. Don't you think that would be helpful? Just like a visual?
It would. Yeah.
Right? Then I don't have to say anything. I think sometimes we use all of our words all day, right? And we hear a lot of words all day. And so sometimes you just need to go into your sensory deprivation chamber and just like take a beat, right? Okay. So if you were to think about the thing that stresses you out the absolute most, I mean, we've talked about AP classes, we've talked about social stuff, we've talked about college. What are the things that are the most stressful? Is it you versus you? Is it what you're doing to yourself or putting on yourself? Is it what you think other people are putting on you? What do you think is the most stressful thing?
I feel like for me, it's definitely like thinking that like I'm not doing enough or like I'm not like good enough at this like one thing. And I feel like that really kind of like, it's just like you're just like self-destructing yourself. Like you're not like doing yourself any favors by that. And I think like just like seeing what everyone else is doing and just like that feeling of like, okay, like, well, should I be doing that because they're doing that? Or like, okay, well, like I'm not doing that as good as they are. But like, it's like good to think about like you're still like doing something. Like doing something is still better than doing nothing. And kind of just like knowing that like in my mind, like knowing that I'm like putting my like best foot forward and like doing my best, like that's enough for me, like because I am trying. So like that feeling of just like you shouldn't like give it like have like other people like judge you based off of, like what you're doing and like how you feel like kind of like is like the societal norm, because like I've like the best is like your best is like different from someone else's best, and I feel like that's not really like talked enough about, and like you need to like recognize that for yourself.
I think that's really important. And, I always tell people, measure yourself with your own yardstick and not with someone else's. Because what you bring to the table, what you've been given, what you have in front of you, it's very different from person to person.
Yeah.
And so as long as you're being realistic about what you want for yourself, and it's attainable, then continuously adjusting for yourself is super important.
Yeah. And like everyone has like different like situations and like environments that they grew up in. So like everyone's like goals for themselves are like so much different than like anyone else's, like financial situations and like, what your goal for yourself might be in your life. So like you can't really like, it's not fair to compare yourself to others like when they're not in the same situation that you're in. So I feel like that's not like recognized.
In yourself or by other people?
By everyone, really, I feel like. Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to take it more of like not a personal level. Like, I think I can speak for everyone or majority of people when I say that like financial stress is a big thing, especially when you start talking about college, because not everyone can afford to pay $50,000 out of pocket without taking loans. And again, like just the stress of having to go to college itself, because again, at our school, it's so normalized, and we have thing life after college, and it's like, or life after high school, and it's like they only talk about college, and they do say if you plan on going to college, but then they dismiss anything else that's like how do you make a plan that's if you don't want to go to college. So because going to college is also normalized, like people find it hard to financially like be or to think that it's like feasible for them to go to college just because of like the sheer amount of money that you're putting into your education, but also like it's important, but how much are you willing to spend to do that?
Sure. It's a real thing. It's very different now than it used to be. I'll tell you that. It's very competitive. The colleges are I think we get maybe 100 emails from colleges we've never heard of, right? Once you go into the Common App or sign up through Niche or something, like all of a sudden you're being invited to join a D1 rowing team on the coast. And you're like, what school is this? And why do I want to row? I've never even been in a boat, right? So then you're even inundated with even more opportunities that you're like, wait, I don't want this, right? So it's a lot. You're being inundated with a lot of information. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was also going to say, like, even applying to college, you spend $80 just for the application fee, which I think is crazy. So then it's also like, are you limiting yourself? Because I know people who are applying to 20 colleges, but then that's a lot of money. And I know people that are applying to 5, but maybe the people that are applying to 5 could have gotten into other colleges that could have been better for them, but they just don't find it feasible.
Right. Exactly. So you are sort of 1 foot in young adulthood and 1 foot in, sorry, this is going to sound terrible, but childhood. You're not children. I'm not saying you're children, but you're sort of straddling this line where you're going through the motions of getting through your high school experience. You're looking at your future, which is a really long time, we hope, right? And then the choices that you have to make to put you on that path. So that's a lot of pressure. And if you could offer some advice on how to deal with pressure, like activities that you could do. I know that we've talked about breathing and time management and other, hanging with friends. But what are some other outlets that you could advise people?
I feel like just the biggest thing is just understanding that there's no vanilla way of getting rid of stress and there's no like way to get rid of pressure. It's just different for everyone. So you need to find what works best for you. Like for me, again, it's just taking breaks, talking to family. But if that's not like what works for you, then you need to find something like maybe talking with friends or like just spending time on your phone, which I know that is not great, but it could help alleviate some of the pressure. And like, you also have to realize that you should not feel guilty for taking breaks because that is necessary. And like, you need to spend some time like with yourself and like without all that stress.
I want to talk about guilt because we've talked a little bit about it in a couple of places. It's really weird to me that teenagers feel guilty for taking downtime. That's like something I feel guilty about, but I have a whole different life than you. So walk me through that.
I think my guilt and a lot of people's guilt is just like its origins are just the fact that you could be doing something else that could be more beneficial for you in the future, but you're deciding to have fun, and which is not supposed to be something that you're guilty for doing, but it's just like, could I be affording to do that right now when I have so much pressure built on of getting to college or anything that you plan on doing for the future? It's just like, that's just what it stems from, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know, like even like when we're in school and like you're done with like all your assignments, like teachers are always like, oh, like there's something that you could be doing. Like there's always homework or like something you could be studying for. And I feel like that's just like kind of like taught to you that there's like always something like that like you could be doing that could be like helping you. But really like taking a break and like, like doing something that you enjoy is helping you. It is like, kind of bringing you back to reality and like kind of like grounding you. So I feel like it's not like our first priority to kind of like have fun because there's always like other homework or something else that you can be studying for. So it's just kind of that like feeling of like, okay, well, am I really doing enough? Like I bet like other people are probably like studying like 4 hours for this, but I'm only studying 2 hours like with breaks. Like, is that like enough? And I feel like that's what kind of like starts the guilt.
And I feel like that's also so hard to understand because we're both saying this right now, but we're still going to do the same thing that we did before. And we're still going to feel guilty for having fun. However, like, it's just, you can't really fix it right away. And you need to like take time. And like, I'm sure like later on when I look back, I'll be like, I don't know why I was so stressed. Like it really wasn't that big of a deal. But like in the moment, everything's so different.
Well, everything feels huge, right? Everything feels so huge. And we talked a little bit about this where there's you in the center, right? And then there's your family, right? And maybe you have a sibling who is a really high achiever and maybe you're not as high of an achiever. So you have that pressure to live up to that person. Or maybe you have a sibling who didn't do anything and your parents put a lot of pressure on you to exceed what didn't happen with your sibling. Then you've got your school pressure, which it sounds like your high school is extremely competitive and very, very driven to churn out high performing students, right? Then you've got your social media, which is a lot more of that exposure to these AP classes will get you here, or this school is looking for this, and you may design this future for yourself that's either unattainable or you get there and you're like, why did I do this? Because this is not for me, right? So it's sort of building this, you're almost in the middle of a stress ball because you're either reflecting on what you think you should be doing or you're projecting what you think other people think you should be doing. How are you even getting out of bed in the morning? Tell me more about that.
I think like everything that like causes us stress is also what like will make us like successful for like the future. Cause like obviously like school is stressful, but like doing good in school like will help you in the future. It'll help you get into good college, like help you have like a good career. So I think like stress is something that like it's gonna happen either way. And like all of these things is going to cause us stress. But like in the end, like as long as you have to like learn how to manage it well, because it's a consequence of like working hard and like getting like a good future. So it's just like something that like you have to go through, but you don't have to go through it like alone, or you don't have to like go through it like you don't have to struggle through it. Like you just have to like learn how to manage it. And I think that's like what drives a lot of people, like knowing that like, okay, yeah, like it's all worth it in the end.
I was gonna say the same thing, that like for me, my like motivation is just like from small achievements. Like if I did really good in a Model UN conference, like it makes me excited to get up and do good for the rest of the year or the rest of the day, like anything like that. I feel like just knowing that you're striving towards that one goal helps you and makes you more motivated and determined to get to that goal. However, like I've seen valedictorian speeches say that like it was not worth it, like all that time they've spent. But it's like, then you're like, well, how do you not think it's worth it? Like you're literally valedictorian. Like that title is so huge. But like our school doesn't do valedictorian, but like still, like the fact that like we put this to such people to such high standards, and like when in reality, like it really doesn't matter too much.
I think what you're saying is also, it's, I go back to, it's you versus you. It's building your character. It's building your threshold. I mean, what do you want to do? You want to do business, international business?
Like something in finance.
Finance. Numbers are stressful. I can't even look at a number without like choking. And what do you want to do when you grow up?
Something in public health or medicine.
Okay. So it sounds like you both are going to potentially be in high stress positions in your careers, right? And so these baby steps, even though they're really huge, these are actually building your threshold, they're building your character, and they're strengthening your ability to be agile and be flexible within your college career as you go through it, and your career as you go through it. So to your point, maybe some people from the social status perspective are like, oh, this wasn't worth it. But from a character building, it sounds like you're investing a lot in yourself. And it sounds like you plan to pour a lot of that back out into the people around you and to your job. So that's one way to look at it, I suppose, right? It's the necessary evil.
Exactly.
And when we sort of touched on it, but when does it become dangerous? When does your stress level and your guilt become dangerous?
I feel like it's just when you don't feel like yourself, like you don't feel like interested in anything you have been interested in the past. Like if you don't want to do the same things as before, I feel like anything that just like changes your mood to an extreme where you can't really turn back. And I don't think I've seen that really in anyone. However, like I've heard about it, and depression could be it's a really big thing. Like it's something that needs to be addressed and obviously isn't addressed enough. And I feel like it just goes back to like reaching out and seeking help. And it's hard to, but it also should be more normalized.
Okay.
Yeah. And I feel like when you're like doing something like that you normally enjoy, but that thing becomes stressful, then it's like not really worth it then, because like you have nothing left that you like really enjoy. Like if you're in a sport that you really like, but it becomes like something like the root of your stress, like then is it really worth like putting in all that effort just like in return just to get like stress? And like it's not really like worth it then. So you really have to see like, like what is a main like root cause of your stress, and like is that like worth like ruining your mental health for?
I think you said something really interesting there, which is, again, I think we mentioned this earlier, take a beat and take stock and evaluate, right? Okay, so I have all these 8 things that cause me stress. This one, and you can rank them, right? These things. And if it doesn't serve you, then maybe you let it go. Even though maybe all your friends are doing it, or maybe you feel compelled to do it. But if you use that thought process of it's me versus me, what's going to make me the best version of myself, maybe you just have to figure out that thing that just isn't worth it. Because if I have 100% of stress that I can spend and I'm maxing out at 110, I have to let that thing go.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's just like important to think about like why you're doing something. Like, are you just doing it because like all of your other friends are doing it and like you feel like you're not doing enough, so you're also going to do something? Or are you doing it because you're like genuinely like interested in it, or like you think it'll like really help towards like your future like goal? So it's like important to like take like inventory of like, why am I doing something? Like, is it really worth it?
And maybe I do it, but maybe not as much.
Yeah.
Right? Except hanging out with your friends. I really encourage you to hang out with your friends. It's so important. So if we were in a room full of people who were experiencing the same levels of stress that you are, but maybe weren't as able to handle it, what is one piece of advice that you want them to go away with from today's conversation? What's the most important thing?
I would say to not bite off what you can't chew. Like, don't take classes that won't work for you. Like, for sure, people take classes because their friends are taking it and they want to be part of the same circle. And like, just that societal pressure is so much to handle. However, like, you shouldn't be taking things that are not meant for you. And like, I feel like you can easily figure that out when you're always stressed, and like, you could just tell like this thing is not made for me. But it's hard to like go away from that just because of like, I would talk about me from like mainly just friend groups. Like, I want to be in the same friend group that I'm in because they're just so supportive and they're amazing. But everyone in that group is so smart. And it's like, maybe I can't reach that level. And it's not like I can't be friends with them, but that's hard to understand.
I see. Okay.
I think just knowing that like in the end, like everything is going to be okay. And like, it's all like worth it. Like, even though it's something is stressful, like it is worth it in the end. And just like know that like, you shouldn't be like ashamed to like reach out or ask for help, because like there's so many resources out there, and like that's what they're there for, like for you to use them. So like, even if someone does like make you like feel like weird, like makes fun of you for using resources or whatever, like you're going to come out better in the end than they are. And like, it's all like going to be okay. Like, don't like use what you like your resources that you have, and like see like what's like important to you.
And I would say, talk to think about your 30-year-old self and where you think that person is going to be and what they're going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And think about what they might say to you. You know what I mean? About where you're at today. And if you know anybody who's in their 30s, you can ask them that same question. And I think what you're going to learn is your social capital, the people who are in your corner, that social capital is actually going to serve you better than your AP classes. So think about that, because the AP class is going to serve you for your college entry, your social capital, your friend groups, how you interact with people, how you manage yourself, and how you manage your relationships. That's going to serve you in your 30s. So just kind of remember that, and give yourself forgiveness for wanting to hang out with your friends. And you can say, well, Chris Salyard said that it will serve me in my 30s. But I think giving yourself permission to let your hair down and be a kid sometimes, even though you're young adults, I know, but, allow yourself some grace, and, allow yourself the ability to take a day and go, yeah, I'm not doing this today, right? I'm going to eat the pint of ice cream, and I'm going to watch a movie or chill and watch Netflix, and I'm not going to feel guilty about it. So not every day. I don't want your parents calling me. So, well, it's been really great having you guys on today to talk about stress. Is there any last parting words of wisdom you want to leave our listeners?
Just say that's all going to be okay. Yeah.
I would just say, like, just relax. Like, it's really, like, again, what you said, when you look back in life, you're going to think, like, it was stupid to worry about these small things.
But they feel big now. So I don't want to minimize how big they feel, because this is your entire life right now. So I think, yes, you're right. You will look back on it. And so I think that's where you can balance your guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for coming on. It's been so nice talking to you guys, and I can't wait to have you on again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.